Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin in just a few moments. Can you please take your seats so we can start? All of you, may I please start requesting all of you to come back to your seats as we're starting in just a few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats as we are starting now. All of you people standing at the back, may I please request all of you to take your seats as we are starting now. I would now like to request my respected panelist speakers to join me on stage. I would now like to request my respected panelist speakers to join me on stage. Mr. Atif Bajwa, President and CEO, Bank Al Falah. Mr. Atif Bajwa has been the President of Bank Al Falah since November 2011. Mr. Atif has diversified experience in banking and has held various roles within and outside Pakistan. Please, sir, can we have you on stage? Mr. Khalid Nawaz Awan, Chairman TCS. Can we have you on stage as well, sir? Mr. Awan is co-founder and chairman of TCS. His businesses developed over the past 25 years and are collectively called the Transam Group. Please, sir. Mr. Sirajuddin Aziz, President and CEO, Habib Metropolitan Bank Limited. Mr. Sirajuddin Aziz is a senior banker. During his 35-year banking career with international as well as local banks, he held several senior management positions in various countries including Pakistan, UK, UAE, Nigeria, Hong Kong and China. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Mr. Irfan Siddiqui. Can we also have you on stage, sir? Mr. Irfan Siddiqui, who's the founding president and CEO of Mizan Bank. He initiated the formation of Al Mizan Investment Bank in 1997. Thank you, sir, for joining us on stage. Mr. Usman A. Ghani, who's the chairman of Confluent USA. He is the authorized trainer to run GRIP Management Program. Mr. Amir Niazi, President PSTD, COO International Textile. As I am handing over this session to Mr. Amir Niazi.
Assalamu alaikum ji. We'd like to go ahead and start this panel discussion which relates to inclusive growth. It's a great pleasure and a privilege for me to moderate this panel. You've already heard the introductions to our distinguished panelists. Each one of them has made an outstanding contribution in their own respective fields, particularly in banking and finance, in international consulting, and related areas. What I would like to do in terms of the format is that each of our panel speakers to come up and share their perspective for 3 to 5 minutes. And then after that, once we are through with the panel, we would like to sit down and go through a discussion on inclusive growth from the context of an emerging and a developing economy. So without any further ado, I would like to start with Mr. Bajwa. Mr. Bajwa, if you would like to come up, please, and share your perspective.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I have been asked here today by a gentleman whose tenaciousness I have to admire. I had requested that I be excused because I had some previous engagements and I don't have enough time. But the tenaciousness of Mr. Ijaz Nisar is just incredible, that he would not give up till I came up here and at least said a few words, whether I was prepared or not. I have to apologize that, my level of preparedness for this particular panel is not necessarily great, but he did ask me to speak about Pakistan being a land of opportunity. And that's what I was asked just a few minutes ago to talk about. And in very few minutes, obviously, you have the panel who have much more to say. Clearly, I don't have to repeat this. Everybody knows that Pakistan is a land of opportunity, but also a land of great challenges. We keep saying that Pakistan has opportunity, that the future is great. Unfortunately, for some reason or the other, the future does not come into our grasp. So it keeps on, the great future keeps on slipping further into the future. But that does not take away the opportunity that exists. It's just that we let the challenges facing us perhaps overcome us. But it takes, as in any country or as in any company, leadership to bring about the resources and the strength of the nation, of the country, of the employees of a company to tackle the challenges, overcome them, and then actually realize the opportunity that exists. So therefore, I commend Ijaz for creating this forum of CEOs, which is really the most important element in moving forward, which is the leadership of our corporate world. So bringing them together under this forum has been a journey for Ijaz. And I've seen the struggle that he's gone through. But today I'm really pleased to see the attendance has been excellent. The group of speakers has been absolutely stellar. And of course we have, fortunately, guests from outside of the country as well, which shows that this idea is now beginning to catch beyond our own shores. So I guess really leadership is important, developing our leaders to understand the opportunities and the challenges and overcoming them is something that we need to invest in. And really that's the key resource, human resource, which we have started calling in our own institution, and I think following from others, rather than human resource, calling it human capital. Because really, the only real investment beyond financial that is required for success is human capital. And if we start thinking of our own people as capital, as people who are the most essential element of any strategy or any future growth, then we start taking the right decisions in developing people. This is something that the entire nation needs. Unfortunately, over the last many decades, we have seen that perhaps the commitment to developing people and human capital has not been there in our country. And that is why, on a relative basis, despite us growing, on a relative basis, we have been slipping in our position internationally. So to reverse that, we all here have to make that commitment that human capital must be developed again. On the banking industry side, which I represent, We have seen the heydays when Pakistani bankers used to rule the roost. In the Middle East and in the Far East and in the West, Pakistani bankers flourished. Of course, being trained in the home ground in the universities of the successful banks in Pakistan. That unfortunately has changed over time. Today, we do not enjoy the same level of dominance as bankers as we once did. And really, the main reason is perhaps we did not spend as much time training our people as we used to in the past. So, as bankers, we've got to do more. Consequently, I think our banking industry is, while doing well on the profit line, this is my view, may or may not be shared by my colleagues on the panel, the banking industry has a lot more to do. It is still a suboptimal industry where the level of products and services and penetration of financial services required is not there. So if 10 to 15% of our entire population have banking accounts, that doesn't say too much for our financial industry. So that's just one example, but across the board, developing our capital markets, developing an SME-focused strategy, developing microfinance as an industry, all that we have a lot more to go. Payment systems, good quality of services, sustainable, dependable technology. There's a lot to do in the banking industry. And therefore, it's a land of opportunity. Because we are at this level and the opportunity is to go here, I think the comment that Ijaz made, that Pakistan is a land of opportunity, is absolutely clear. We are at a low level of performance as a country, as an economy, and in particular industries. We can do much better. The only way we can do that, though, is investing in our people and creating this human capital. Financial capital is relatively easy to get. If you can show that you have the human capital, financial capital will come. So, I guess just to end with an emphasis that all of us have a responsibility to start from a leadership level to develop our leaders, but also cascade that all the way down to developing from the very bottom up the quality of our people, so that in our own microcosms of the economy, we are able to do our job better. And if all of us can do our jobs better in our little areas, then the economy can only go up much faster. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Atif Bajwa will have to leave earlier. So before he leaves, we would like to present him a memento. And for that, I would like to request Mr. Khalid Nawaz Awan to please come forward and present him a memento. Please, and please, Mr. Ijaz, come forward. Sir, can we go center stage, please? Please, sir, look into the camera, as Bank Al-Falah is also one of our lead sponsors today. So, thank you very much, sir, for being here. Thank you. So, over to Mr. Amir.
I would like to now request the Chairman of TCS, Mr. Khalid Awan, to share his perspective. Mr. Awan, please.
Thank you, Ji. Assalamu alaikum. I want to pick up on where Atif Bajwa just left. And he spoke of investment. And I just like to make a point that investment we measure usually in financial terms. We have the bankers sitting here, we have the government, all the statistics are in dollar terms. But investment from the financial part is just a very small part of the growth and what is the full story. The real investment is really the emotional investment. The real investment is, does the government or does the environment create opportunity just for the dollars investment, the rupees investment measured in terms of the returns? Or is it an investment into the emotions of people who want to invest for the better quality of life for themselves as a first building block, and then for the communities, then for the nation, and then for the world as a whole? Because our policymakers should never lose sight of the fact that the real opportunity and the real contribution that they can make is to the quality of life. And the quality of life starts first with an emotional yearning in each and every one of us. And that, I am sure, I'll be able to touch a chord in each and every one of us. Each one of us wants to experience our time in this world with growth, with success. But the real success is the one that comes with a bit of a sweat. The real success is which comes with what used to be written on our 1 rupee notes a few decades ago, which somehow have been discarded. Rizq halal and ibadat hai. और जो उस रिस्क हलाल को खून पसीने से कमाने का जो मजा है, that is the greatest satisfaction, and that is the greatest nobility, and that is the greatest gift that you can give to yourselves, to your community, and to your nation. And that is where what lies at the heart of developments, at the heart of growth, entrepreneurship. Do we have that environment where the real values of life are practiced? Otherwise, the success of a few rich houses, a few businesses, do not in any way reflect the success of a nation. Because the success of a nation will not depend on who are the richest few people. The success of a nation will be measured by how common people, how a common man, an ordinary man, doing ordinary things in his everyday life, how is his feel-good feeling? And I think I'd just like to leave my point at that. And I like to describe that at the heart of it is entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is not just business. Business is one of the many dimensions of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is your coping with your everyday challenges. And the best definition that I read of entrepreneurship is that an entrepreneur does two things that makes him separate from the other. A, he takes some risk. There's some risk involved in whatever he's doing, and he takes it knowingly. And secondly, he does something, attempts to do something in a different way, something that hasn't been done before. And the best description of entrepreneurship is in one little verse that once I discovered. I was teaching my 8-year-old child, my son, on his school homework one day. And the homework was to memorize a poem by Longfellow. And the poem, one verse that stuck with me, describing an entrepreneur, that his brow is wet with honest sweat. He earns whatever he can. and looks the whole world in the face, for he owes not any man. So, on that note, I like to leave it time to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Awan. That was certainly a very enlightening and thought-provoking perspective, and I think that will contribute a lot to our discussion as we move along. I'd like to request Mr. Irfan Siddiqui, the President and the Chief Executive Officer of Mizan Bank, to share his context and experiences. Mr. Siddiqui, please.
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamu alaikum. I think Atif Saab and yourself related a lot to experience of how human development should happen. I thought with the limited time, I'll take you through a little bit of an experience which we have seen in Mizan Bank in terms of development story for Pakistan. In terms of the title for today, Pakistan, Land of Opportunities, I'm a big believer of Pakistan myself. Spent about 13 years abroad, including education and some work experience as well. But I always tell our young generation that there's nothing better than Pakistan based on practical aspects. Even now when you travel around the world, you see a lot of Pakistanis doing a lot of good things. But the level of satisfaction you see in them is much higher in Pakistan. Despite problems and all these things, career growth is better in Pakistan if you have the right education. Maybe for blue-collared work and labor class, Pakistan is a little bit of a tough country, but when we're talking about people like ourselves sitting in this air-conditioned room, I think Pakistan, there's no match to Pakistan anywhere in the world. So we have to have faith in Pakistan, we have to believe in Pakistan. The first time I visited Malaysia was in 1980, and at that time Karachi was much better than Kuala Lumpur. The next time I went to Malaysia was after 20 years gap, and Malaysia was like any country in the West, and Pakistan unfortunately had not gone too far. So I think a good leadership would really make things different in Pakistan, and we should hope that that will happen. So countries ki life mein maybe 5 years and 10 years is nothing. Sometimes it takes 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades to happen, and as long as we have that end in mind, that we have to build better Pakistan ourselves, we contribute whatever we can in order to make this as a better place. Whether we achieve that end objective or not in our lifetime or in our professional career, I think is irrelevant. We should work with that common objective. With that in mind, I'll take you through the history of Mizan Bank. We started, like Khalid Bhai said, that, out of the box, something which other people are not doing. Out of passion, we started this business of Islamic finance. We started as an investment bank in 1997. All my friends who were in banking sector labeled me as out of mind, and they said that, you were taking too much risk. Again, what Khalid Sahab talked about, of, कि वो capital भी सब खत्म हो जाएगा, you would lose your career and all these things. But we started the first Islamic investment bank in the country. 3 years of very profitable track record, but very slow growth. In 3 years later, we were just 30 people in one little office as big as this, probably twice this stage. That's all. But like I said, the commitment was there. Our vision statement from day one, when we were investment bank with 0 people, was to establish Islamic banking as banking of first choice. So agar uske bhi baare mein sochein that, it was not related inward looking to Mizan Bank, it was an outward looking to the community as large, to make Islamic banking as banking of first choice. And obviously 3 years later, we were going nowhere in that, until we got an opportunity to acquire a foreign bank at that time, a French bank called Société Générale, through which we got the commercial banking license, and ever since then we started expanding. So in the last 12 years, we went from a 1 branch network to 400 branch network. I think this has been the fastest growth Pakistan has ever seen in the financial sector, and that too in a profitable manner. Our return on equity is among the top 5 or top 3, I would say, in the financial sector for the last many years, at least 3-4 years. So there is a consistency, there's a growth. Our annual growth rate in deposits has been over 35% on a CAGR terms, annual compounded rate. So all this is happening in Pakistan, it's not abroad. So Pakistan mein jo opportunities hai, it's unlimited. I was in Dubai 2 days ago in a seminar, And I mentioned to them that we employ 2,000 people every year. This year we're going to employ 2,000 people. They said, well, in Dubai, if you want to employ 20 people, we don't know where to get them from. So I think this is the blessing which we have in Pakistan, that we can employ 2,000 people out of maybe a database of 200,000 people, who apply. So itni luxury kahan milti hai aapko? You go to anywhere in the world, you don't get this luxury. I mean, you get good, talented people coming and applying for jobs. You train them and you create assets out of them. Jo Atif bhi baat kar rahe the, that, it is human capital. About, I think, many hundreds of our employees do leave us and go to, especially the Middle East these days, and getting very good jobs because they get good training in Pakistan and then they go abroad. So in terms of exporting human capital, that is also there. So Pakistan pe faith hona bahut zaruri hai hame. If we have faith, we'll survive. If we don't have faith, we'll go down even deeper. Recently we acquired the HSBC business in Pakistan, which comprised of 10 branches. Now for HSBC, Pakistan wasn't a desired opportunity. They didn't see the opportunity, we saw the opportunity in that. We acquired it, converted it into Islamic, and mashallah, it's adding on fuel to our business as well. So bottom line ये है कि आपका faith होना चाहिए, vision बहुत strong होना चाहिए, like our friend from abroad mentioned in his one of his keynote address, that your vision and mission has to be very strong. So if we have that, and if it's ingrained right down to the janitorial staff, like he said, then I think we have won the battle. Pakistan will progress. We will make it happen. People are not going to come from Malaysia or, India or Middle East to come and make it happen. We'll have to make it happen. So, bas trust hona bahut zaroor hai country ke upar. So that, I think that's all my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddiqui Saab. I think you've provided brilliant leadership in an area where there was absolutely no excavation at all. There's a lot of respect for the work that you have done. And clearly you are not only a successful business leader, but also a pathfinder, a pioneer. So congratulations to you. Thank you for recapping a journey of 20 some odd years in 3 minutes. But we'll hear more from you as the discussion goes on. Our next guest, Mr. Usman Ghani, the chairman of Confluence, is a brilliant young man who is perhaps one of the finest ambassadors we have around the world in terms of representing Pakistan. We have been very fortunate, I personally, to have gained from his perspective and knowledge, and would request him to share perhaps the international context, keeping Pakistan in view. Mr. Ghani, please.
Now it's working? Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Initially, when I was invited to this program, I was told that there will be 20 minutes. And then I was told it is reduced to 8. So with Ijaz Nisar, a request means an order. And I take it. Thank you very much. I want to say a few things before I get into the paced sharing of some thoughts that relate to the theme today. Firstly, I think that the recognition for manager today is not only apt, but it is an example of sustainability. Ages ago, when I was a kid, we used to read something called Pakistan Management Review. It was a pretty good publication. And you would get it very regularly, and gradually it dwindled and went away. Then something else came up and went away. But this is a very zealous effort where, with meager beginnings, Ijaz has brought to us, to our tables in Pakistan and abroad, the accomplishments and the challenges of CEOs and senior executives of the country, and it's become an organ and an ambassador of presentation worldwide. I also want to recognize Mr. Amir Niazi, who currently is, I believe, still the president of Pakistan Society of Training and Development, which my late great father founded, and which he is running very ably. And more than that, I am among three people here who are examples of what I am going to talk about, where I think the growth comes from. Because I don't think growth comes from outside, it comes from inside. Let me name those three names because they are here, and when Ijaz told me they will be coming, I requested that my session be in the morning instead of the afternoon. One is Mr. Aga Zafar Abbas of Kansai Paints, Mr. Sirajuddin Aziz, who happens to be on the panel, and Mr. Khalid Awan, who also are on the panel. In a few minutes, I'll tell you why I'm recognizing them, which doesn't mean that I am not appreciating the presence of the others. We have discussed this morning about growth, and we have looked at growth from a macroeconomic perspective and a little bit from the organizational perspective. And I think that there are really three levels of growth, or three targets that you need to look at and evaluate with time. Foremost is individual. It is individuals who bring change. It's individuals who create and share visions. And it is individuals who deliver. Think about Quaid-e-Azam. Think about Martin Luther King. Think about Mao Zedong and the other leaders. They were not a crowd that went to them and gave them the vision. They had the vision and they led. I will not touch the organizational and societal levels because more speakers will be talking. But even in those organs, there are individuals. And those individuals are the ones who think about what can they do better, not for themselves, but for the next generation. And that time focus brings together a lot of people. Remember, all wars start on contemporary issues, and all peace comes when you think of the next generation. So one might even ask the question, why have wars? And that is what I'm not going to touch right now, but I'll go on to growth. Individuals who I'm picking up here grow through three methods, and that's what their learning is. Either knowledge, or skills, or attitudes. So it's the combination or the confluence of these three that make us better people, that make us to grow, and then we cause organizations and societies to grow. Knowledge can be taught. This morning a speaker mentioned about the pace of growth of knowledge or data out there in Google. Attitudes are not taught, they are caught. You look at a model like a prophet or a leader and you catch those attitudes. And skills are the tough thing which I think we need to really think about. When examples of Malaysia or Dubai or even the United States, where I now live, come about, it's not because they had more knowledge. And it's not because their attitude was very positive. It is because all three things, knowledge, skills, and attitudes, in cognizance went together. And the skills is what they toiled for. We did a little survey in the United States in the days when I was with McKinsey to find out how many CEOs and board members truly develop themselves after they have been made CEOs. We were very disappointed at 17%. Let's make it 20 to be generous. This means 1 in every 5 CEOs really wants to go out there, learn something, douse himself into some activity and come out a better person, whether it is through a program, a seminar, or self-learning. The other 4 out of 5 think they know, and that's unfortunate because knowledge, as I just said, they know, is not static. On the one hand, we are saying knowledge is growing. On the other hand, the person says he knows or she knows. And you can almost predict the decline of an organization based on the CEO's own growth and development. Since this is a CEO club, and since I'm talking about individuals where I focused this attention, I want to ask each of you, how often and where did you go and get your next level of education in any area that you think about? I'm not talking about reading books or attending a half-day seminar. Real skill building. And that's where these three people, Aga Zafar, Sirajuddin Aziz and Khalid Awan actually subjugated themselves. I won't name the name of a seminar because it will look like I'm marketing, but through a very tough 5-day grueling exercise, if you resonate with me, not all of them do it. And that would be a pre-indicator or leading indicator of the growth of that organization. Because if the chief executive says, I don't know it all, I need to be better, I need to learn, and therefore I am going to have lifelong learning as my mission as an individual, others will follow suit. He doesn't have to tell what to do. Many people who I have met have followed Khalid Awan with a lot of liking. So also Agha Zafar Abbas. In fact, I had the honor of sitting with him this morning, and he was asking me about some system. Is there somebody here who can do that, because you're abroad? And so he was worried about how he can take that knowledge that he learned and pass it on to his colleagues and his peers. And that, I think, is an extremely important indicator. Look at the chief executives, whether they are in companies, whether they are in government or non-profits or philanthropy, and see, are they developing? What is the latest they have learned? My guru, who I had the honor of working for a year with, Peter Drucker, used to learn something every year. He used to say, every 3 years, I redefine myself. And he did it. We used to see heaps of books in Korean. And he really mastered Korean and learned about it. Then he went to the Asian arts. Then he went to the classical music of the West. Now, these might be unrelated to a management guru or to a managing director, but that keeps the brain developing and learning that there's a lot out there. We can't be just overwhelmed with the knowledge out there and say technology, technology, technology is the answer. No, technology is an enabler at best. Think of it, you all came here in cars. Car was not your goal, journey was your goal. A lot of people here with cameras. Camera is not their goal, saving the memory is the goal. So this is a big test. Ask yourself around. Ask your peers when you're sitting in CEO clubs, when you're sitting in Synth Club or wherever. Ask, what did you learn the last thing? Not the last joke that you learned or a fun story or the book that you read. Where did you really evolve out and become something different? Bob Dylan used to say, he not busy being born is busy dying. And that is the reality of today, just as it was of ever. I want to touch a little bit about